You either choose Bitcoin, and if you're against Bitcoin, what you're doing is you're supporting people like Christine Lagarde. Those are literally your two options. I know a lot of you aren't going to believe me. They're going to say gold. They're going to say this. They're going to say shitcoins. If you really look into it, because of Bitcoin's decentralization, right? You really have another option, an alternative to central banking, which doesn't get rid of wealth inequality, but at least it gives everyone a fair shot, unlike the alternative system of central banking. This really shows why there really is no alternative, right? If you're in fiat money, specifically you're in Europe, even though American central bankers all over the world, they have no idea what they're doing. The only thing they know how to do is print money. And when they try to stop printing that money, it's catastrophic to the economy. So really, the only thing these people know is how to print money. Anyways, here's a video of Christine Lagarde, which is convicted felon and the head of the European Central Bank. I love saying that together. By the way, that's true. Being questioned on Dutch show College Tour about crypto and the expansion of the ECB balance sheet, right? It looks like a lot of people are picking that up. It looks like some people have been watching Simply Bitcoin and us pulling up that M2 chart and the Fed balance sheet. Anyways, let's see what her reaction was in this.
There is this graph about the balance sheet of the European Central Bank and the money that is on there now. And here it is. What I would like to show our viewers and ask the question about is, this is going over 8 trillion euros now. And isn't what you just told us about the cryptocurrencies, don't we see a gigantic bubble here on your balance sheet with the euro? And isn't this graph very nerve-wracking?
Well, I can tell you that there is zero crypto assets in the balance sheet of the ECB.
That I know.
Point number one. Well, I just don't want any ambiguity about it.
Yeah.
But you have to think in terms of counterfactual. If we had not decided on March 18th, when we put together the pandemic emergency program, and then subsequently increased the volume of commitment that we made to the European Union economies, we would be in a devastated situation. So I don't regret any of that move that we took on that day, which was 4 months into my job, to significantly increase the size of the balance sheet, because that's all we had.
Yeah.
Otherwise the economy would have collapsed, and it would have been even accelerated by financial crisis.
You have to do it.
So I'm not going to play you guys the whole thing. I'm going to focus on that, and perhaps we'll double back on the second part of that response perhaps tomorrow. So this all goes back down to the idea of Keynesian economics and Austrian economics, right? So the idea of central banking is to soften the blow, and the way that they soften the blow is by they just flood the system with liquidity, also known as printing a crap ton of money. But she says, oh, it would have been catastrophic. But here's the thing, it was catastrophic for the lower and middle classes that don't have the wealth and the means to save in assets that benefit from asset inflation. So if you were the common Joe, right, you have gotten significantly poorer, and the wealthy, whether it's BlackRock, whether it's the top 1%, have benefited the most from all of this quote unquote stimulus. So when she's talking about softening the blow and it wouldn't devastating for the world economy, us Austrian economists, whatever, I'm not really an economist, but the ones that believe in the Austrian school of economics, it would have been good, because it would have flushed out the companies that, that just weren't efficient enough, the companies that weren't good enough to survive that market cycle. And through that devastation, it would have created new companies. But what has happened really since 2008 is that the government gets to pick and choose what companies benefit from all this stimulus, right? And it's the little guy, right? It's the smaller guy that gets absolutely destroyed. Look, if you're a Zoomer or a Boomer, you can't own a home. This is what I'm talking about. Why? Because of all this money printing. So when she's talking about, look, it would have been devastating for the economy, it would have been devastating for the world elites. It would have been devastating for the party of Davos. But for the little guy, yes, it would have sucked. It would have been bad. But through those ashes, right, through the devastation of that normal market cycle, more newer and better companies would have risen, rather than the government and the central banks propping up these zombie companies that all they do is just suck out lifeblood from the economies, right? So again, you either choose Bitcoin, and if you're against Bitcoin, what you're doing is you're supporting people like Christine Christine Lagarde, right? Those are literally your two options. I know a lot of you aren't going to believe me. They're going to say gold. They're going to say this. They're going to say shitcoins. If you really look into it, because of Bitcoin's decentralization, right? You really have another option, an alternative to central banking, which doesn't get rid of wealth inequality, but at least it gives everyone a fair shot, unlike the alternative system of central banking. Anyways, Phil, what are your thoughts?
Great to be back. It's really, you know what? While we were doing the spaces, it seemed like everything was going into each other, the news and the fails. And it seems like this week we're just carrying that on. So look, a couple of points. Through these monetary mechanics, the powers that be aren't allowing real market cycles to play out. I mean, plain and simple. So, this business, this fear that Christine Lagarde is trying to draw up, right? That, this would have been devastating what would have happened. By not allowing these market cycles to play out, the bubbles keep getting bigger, which means that the catastrophe that we will most likely incur is going to be massive. It's going to be of epic proportions. It's going to be much worse than any of the natural market cycles that we would have gone through. The other point I want to make is during that video, she says that we don't regret what we did, but that was 4 months into my job. Did she really want to have said that? I mean, I want you to think about that. Like, it's like you can't blame me. I haven't been here long. It's kind of weird. Anyways, I kind of feel like I was in elementary school there for a second. And the last point that I want to make is about BlackRock. It's interesting that you brought them up. Do you know that last week they put out an article to dispel some of the rumors that they are buying up individual homes?
But they are.
No, I know, but they're not, because we wrote this article and we showed you how we're not buying these individual homes. So, and they got ratioed, by the way, on that. Good. So it was pretty funny. Yeah. So I'm just saying, look, this was a totally cringe video, and it was embarrassing for Christine.
So check this out about what I talk about, the increase in wealth inequality because of the Keynesian economics and the money printing, and because the average Joe can't benefit from asset inflation. It's not only me saying that, our friends at the World Economic Forum are saying that as well. Economic inequality has deepened during the pandemic. That doesn't mean it can't be fixed. Their way of, fixing the wealth inequality is by more centralization, more control. Our fix of, bettering wealth inequality, it's never going to go away, right? Is to get the hands and get the monetary policy out of the hands of the central bankers. The World Economic Forum is the problem. The European Central Bank is the problem. They have caused the mess that supposedly now they're trying to fix. Anyways, Brett, what are your thoughts on this, my friend?
Well, the World Economic Forum, they told us that, we will own nothing and be happy about it. And then they show that guy, he looks really happy on their original video, right? The money printing is indefensible, and we just keep seeing it over and over again. And they're getting to a point where people are starting to figure out that there is no way to keep this up. I think, if we look at we're involved in this, we look at this, we think about it. I often think about, like, what about the other 90+% of the world that doesn't consider money printing, doesn't realize that their purchasing power is diminished with every dollar that is printed, doesn't realize that when they do print money, it's not equally distributed. I hope that they're figuring it out the hard way, just by, the price of goods going up and rapid inflation, that their purchasing power is diminished. And you're right, there is no way to afford a home in the US these days, unless you're, really far away from, large communities, but even there, it's just with the interest rates increasing, it's hard to get a loan for a lot of people. And it's, the money printing disease is spreading worldwide. It starts here and then it makes its way to the other, first world countries, and then second world and third world. And they're all just printing money like it's the only solution for things, because they have no other levers. Rather than let things just achieve stasis, they don't have hard money. So they don't, it's too tempting, right? It's too easy for them to print money. So that's what they do. I often think, what would happen if they just stopped printing money? And I think, Phil, you're right. It would cause problems, but it wouldn't amplify them. The bubble wouldn't be so big that when it does pop, it's going to be so devastating. And that's what with Bitcoin, because it's a hard cap, it's a hard fixed supply. You have to choose how you spend your money much more wisely. And I think that's the biggest advantage of it. And them hating on it and trying, one hand, Christine Lagarde says, oh, we don't own any crypto assets. I don't even remember. I didn't even see her being asked that. She just had to put that out there. She wanted that to be a talking point for this talk, right? And then, okay, you don't have any, you tell people it's worthless, but then you want to regulate it. You can't have both. Why do you want to regulate it if it's worthless? You know, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, it's just more the same kind of rhetoric and lies and distractions. You know, they want to blame crypto. We want to blame Bitcoin and then or any other cryptocurrency for the problems that they're creating. So the solution is stop printing money. That's it. Please stop printing money.
Absolutely. And they're not going to. That's the thing. Like, they're not going to do that, which is why something like Bitcoin is so important. And this is what the shitcoiners fail to understand. The incentive to print money, to soften the blow, and all that stuff is going to be so great that if you don't separate monetary policy away from the hands of humans, if you don't have decentralization from day one, the incentive is so strong for you to change it if you can, right? And no other shitcoin has figured out how to do this, and only Bitcoin has. And when I say shitcoins, I also include fiat currencies in there.